The ultimate tournament of everything.
Welcome to the ultimate tournament of everything, where we compare everything off Wikipedia to everything else off Wikipedia, but 18 things at a time.
That's right, and we do so by writing the names of each of those 18 things in addition to the other infinity minus 18 things on this giant infinite stack of bananas that we have in front of us and have already peeled. We've laid them out on the floor in this infinitely sized gymnasium, and we're going to sprint across it. Which one will make us fall in a hilarious yet appealing fashion? Well, that will be the one moving on to the next round of
The ultimate tournament of everything.
If ever there was a time to need workman's comp, this is really it. But unfortunately, this show makes no money and therefore does not pay for our health insurance. Knowing that fact and knowing that my bones are brittle and fragile in my old age, I would instead like to pick random articles off the internet.
Let's do that for Workmen We Are Not. Let's jump right into round one.
Round one.
In round one, we have Gabriel A.M. Teye against Theater Am AG.
We have two things just at the head of the class here. We've got a Ghanaian educationist who's a lecturer and currently acting as the vice dean of students for a university versus an event venue, which sounds very exciting.
Gabriel A.M. Teye had his basic education at Abertiso Roman Catholic Primary School in 1969. He had his middle school education at the Corware Roman Catholic Middle School in the Upper Manya District from 1975 to 1979, the appropriate 4 years for that education. He then attained his secondary education at Manya Krobo and Kapandi Senior High School from 1979 to 1986 for his GCE O-level and GCE A, respectively. I have no idea how education works over there, but I'm assuming this is like high school for him?
Looks like it. Great teachers making a great teacher, where he graduated from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology with a BSc degree in agriculture and animal science in 1991, and in 1996 he obtained his MSc degree from the same university. He also holds a PhD in meat sciences and technology. Look at that, spitting rhymes all the time, from the University of Bristol, UK, and a diploma of modern management and administration from Cambridge International College, also in the UK.
I wonder if this man goes to Arby's and they're like, "Sir, we have the meats." And he's like, "No, I've studied the meats. These are only some of the meats. Let me tell you all about them. I am a doctor of the meats."
It would take some sort of special scientist, though, to know what's in that horsey sauce. This guy may have qualified for that, though, for he began his career in 1996 when he was appointed a lecturer at the University for Development Studies. And he's since been with the university and became the head of Animal Science Department from 2005 to 2008.
He was then Dean of the Faculty of Agriculture from 2008 till 2012 and became the Pro-Vice Chancellor from 2012 until he was appointed Vice Chancellor in 2015. He's also a reviewer of the Ghana Journal of Animal Science, Journal of Food, Animal and Food Research, African Journal of Food, Agriculture, Nutrition, and Development, and the Ghana Journal of Agricultural Science. I'm assuming that middle section is several journals and not the name of one really long journal.
I would say so, but he also seems to put on quite the educational show. And speaking of quite the show, let's jump over to our other competitor, Theater Am AG.
Now, of course, this is the event venue on the Agdinatlerplatz Square in Hanover, the capital of Lower Saxony in Germany. Didn't that sound German? Like the square, it is often referred to as the AG.
This building was opened in 1953 mainly as a cinema, with a versatile stage also for other performances. It has been a Gastspiel theater for local and touring companies without its own personnel. After a fire, it was rebuilt as a theater only, opened in 1967, and then mainly as a venue for drama performances of the state-run Staatstheater Hanover.
Now, after a new theater was built for that company in 1992, Theater AG returned to its traditional role of a venue for various events, including Congress, private functions, and representation of the city.
Yes, what's more theatrical than politics? The site of today's theater at the Platz at Gate Square, I guess translated, was used as a cinema venue from 1920 in the hall of Hotel Wir Hergesteiten, seating 1,400 spectators.
Now, the building was destroyed by bombing during the Second World War, and in 1953, a theater was built almost in the exact same location. They moved it just a bit in case the bombs decided to come back. It housed a cinema where films were premiered, with a stage suitable for artistic and musical performances, and when opened, it was named Das Modernstädttheater Deutschlands, or Germany's most modern theater, a title it probably only held for a little bit because then they built a newer one.
They did, but in the meantime, it was the largest cinema in northern Germany. The stage was used regularly by the Landesbühne Hanover, a regional company, and by the Thalia Theater Company. The building was largely destroyed by a fire once again in the year of 1964. It was restored with a refurbished feature and with a larger hall opening in 1967. It was then also used as a venue for municipal Schauspiel Hanover.
They then changed it again in 1978, giving it a little bit of a facelift. And in 1981, the house was connected by an entrance to the new subway station, U-Bahn-Station Agendenterplatz. Now, when the Schauspiel Hanover moved to a new building in 1992, the theater was threatened with closure, but committed citizens developed a new concept for usage as a multifunctional stage, the new concept, just like the old one.
Yeah, it's interesting though that you're using committed individuals from probably a place where they are kept for their own safety. Though, interesting ideas. Following the tradition from the 1950s, it hosts performances of musicals, cabarets, comedies and drama, opera, dance, and concerts. In addition, it's available for gala events, congresses, trade fairs, and private events. So, if you're looking to book your next bar mitzvah, check out this place.
The theater also won awards itself while hosting award-winning artists and plays, because the restoration of the roof received an award for the category Metal in 2018. I don't know who played the bass guitar for that one, but it must have been good.
Now, beginning in 1994, the house is operated by a private operator based in Hanover, where it does its operations. Its managing directors are Michael Lohman, at the same time managing director of the Hanover Concerts, and Jürgen Hoffman. According to the theater, the annual average attendance is about 200,000 peoples.
Now the question, now that we reach the end of both articles, is who is better, this theater or this teacher who maybe teaches in a theater?
Well, this is kind of a tough one, but I think I'm leaning toward the one with more really fun words to say, and that would be the theater am Egi, because I love all of these interesting consonant combinations.
I think I'll have to agree with you only because someone already has the market cornered on being the meat doctor, and it's the Arby's guy.
So, Theater Ameji, you put on quite the show here in round one, and you're moving on to round two of
The ultimate tournament of everything.
I'm assuming it's just a translation error. That's why he's Doctor of Meat, but I'd like to think that it's not.
People have called me Doctor of Meat, and people have also called me to move away from jokes like that. And on to the next round, which is round two.
It's time for round two.
So good we're in round two. So many terrible jokes in round one. Don't worry, guys. It's only downhill from here. In round two, we have Lewis Tower in Jersey against McCollin.
That's right. We have a place that stands relatively tall versus a name that also stands somewhat tall. Let's see which one will just edge out the other in terms of height and excellence here in round two.
Now, Lewis Tower, Jersey, is of course not in New Jersey, but Old Jersey. It's a Martello tower that the British erected in 1835 in St. Queen's Bay. The tower was named after Colonel Griffith Lewis, who commanded the Royal Engineers in Jersey from December of 1830 to January of 1836.
This particular location was of some military significance. On the 1st of May, 1779, the rector of St. Ouen le Sire de Parc brought the parish field guns to a favorable spot to help repulse the French Dutch invasion of Jersey. And in 1787, the British placed a battery of three 24-pounder guns on the spot, as well as in 1835, the Martello Tower being it was built there. So I guess this was just a good place to repulse and probably inject people with things that come out of guns.
Hey, whatever you got to do to keep the French out, as my mother always said. Lewis Tower has an elliptical footprint, with the tower's wall being thicker on the seaward side. It has 3 levels with a central pillar and a circular spiral staircase between the floors. It's 33 feet in height and has a diameter of 39 feet. It's armed with a single 24-pounder gun, and it is thus smaller and more lightly armed than the nearby Kempt Tower. 4 years after Lewis Tower's completion, it received a coat of stucco, or cement, to reduce the damp.
It's good to keep the damp out, especially when you're near the ocean. During the German occupation of the Channel Islands, the Germans built a large bunker next to the tower. And the bunker today houses the Channel Islands Military Museum. The Germans also built a concrete extension at the tower's base that housed a searchlight.
Today, the tower is available as a self-catering accommodation under a program that Jersey Heritage administers for the States of Jersey Towers and Forts project.
Sounds like a lovely place to have a self-catered lunch. I don't know, next to a 24-pounder gun. But you're seaside.
You are seaside, and there's even a thicker wall seaside. I don't know if that matters to you, but there's a thicker wall seaside, and it keeps the damp out.
Speaking of damp, let's jump over to our other competitor, McCollin.
Now, of course, this is a surname. Notable people with this surname include Andre McCollin, who plays football, Francis McCollin, who is an American composer and musician, and Khalifa McCollin, a netball player from Trinidad and Tobago.
And that's about all we can tell you. McCollin definitely sounds like a pretty sweet name. I'm sure it's McCollin me right now, but is it enough to move it on to the next round? I don't know.
I think it might be. We've had a lot of historical buildings here, and what makes a building historical is the fact that it's just old, and this one is not that old yet. But the name McCollin, while it looks like it hasn't been around that long, will probably be around longer.
And it's not that common that you have a word with 2 C's and 2 L's in subsequent succession, only separated by an O. It's pretty sweet to look at just for the sake. It's a well-built word is all I'm saying. Though this tower also pretty well built. The Germans saw to making it a little more so. However, from the picture that we've got here, it does not look that impressive. And these McCollins listed in the article, though there be 3 of them, I assume there's more of them because they had to come from somewhere. So, McCollin, you have punched your McCollin card and moving on to the next round.
The ultimate tournament of everything.
Congratulations, the 3 of you.
Yes, it definitely took 3 to take down that tower. But hey, that's what happens. We've only got one 24-pound gun. You should probably have bulked it up a little bit and seen to make sure that you turned off that spotlight at night. And speaking of spotlight, let's take the spotlight out of round 2 and point it directly onto that bright figure, which is round 3.
It's time for round 3.
In round 3, we have the 2022 USFL draft against Marian van Klaat.
Okay, definitely. We've got newcomers here. That's what the draft is all about. And Marian van Klaat hasn't made an appearance yet here in the Tournament of Everything, the ultimate sporting competition. But that's why we're speaking about them right now, because we don't do it twice, unless you're going to show up in round 2, and we're probably never going to get there. So let's get to it.
The 2022 USL Draft, also known as the 2022 USFL Player Selection Meeting, was the player selection process to fill the rosters of the 8 teams for the 2022 USFL season. The draft was held on February 22nd through 23rd, 2022, with results released through USFL's social media channels.
The USFL player allocation process was held in multiple phases, separated by position groups. The league used a snake format in each phase, in which the draft order reversed with each round. So it was kind of what's that snake that eats itself?
The game snake.
No, not the game snake. It's that one that wraps Erebus, Ereborus, something like that. It's definitely one of those types of conundrums that we're faced with. And that is the draft because these people dreamed of football glory and they found themselves in the USFL. The draft order was shuffled for each phase as predetermined through lotteries and a draft pool of 450 to 500 player Ereborists, that's what it was, were eligible to be picked by signing contracts before the draft. And the draft structure was as follows, Rob.
Yeah, no, that's going to be very exciting to read that. I think we'll pass. You can read the article yourselves. It's going to be a list of things in a certain order that goes on forever and ever. And I'm still scrolling, and I'm still scrolling, and I'm still scrolling. Lots of people, you might know some of them. The teams are not very famous yet, but don't worry. The Usful will have its moment soon when the Endful isn't as popular.
Well, and if you want to go and see every single one of these players that was drafted, they all play in the same place. Pretty sure that's Birmingham. So you could save yourself a lot of travel and go check it out. Speaking of checking it out, let's check out our other contestant, Marion Von Klot.
Now, she was born in 1897, passed away in 1919, and was a Latvian noblewoman.
Now, you said she was born in 1897 and passed away in 1919. That passing away portion is about the only one that we have information about. For she was executed during the Russian Bolshevik occupation in Riga in 1919. She became regarded as an evangelical martyr.
Sounds like she's only famous because she's dead.
Yeah, but she must have done something to get deadified.
Apparently
We don't
not.
have any information on that, though.
Yeah, not something important enough to be included in a Wikipedia article where the words are free. So important
And-
nobody wanted to type it.
Yes, but somebody wanted to type a whole bunch of these names, almost every single one of them. In fact, let's see how many picks were actually made here in the USFL draft. Looks like only 360. Mr. Irrelevant, Mr. Bobby Holly, a fullback, running back, tight end from Louisiana Tech, taken as the 360th pick to the Stallions, which are the team from Birmingham. So he got to, they actually won the whole thing. Spoiler alert, but yeah, they won the whole kit and caboodle.
Well, congratulations to them. The Usful, you can watch it on the ESPN on Sundays.
Yeah, it's an inferior league, but in the off season, if you're hungry for football, that's the only place to go. So here we find ourselves at the moment of decision. Do we pick the league that doesn't really stand a chance, or the martyr that clearly did not?
I think we picked the league because even bad football's still football.
That is true. And this person, I wish I knew more about you. There's probably a reason that these terrible people wanted to kill you, and it was probably a good one. That's how it tends to work out when the bad guys get the best of you. But in this case, we're going to talk about the bad teams that are going to be the best that we have. So, the 2022 USFL draft, we draft you into our team to move on to the next round of
The ultimate tournament of everything.
That's as close as you'll get to relevance. I'm sorry, Usful.
Although some of those players have made it into the NFL from the USFL, evolving into the next round of their profession, if you will. And speaking of evolving into the next round, why don't we do the same and move on to round 4?
My round 4 is ready.
In round 4, we have Punter Hills against FK Robotnik Dajmaljalija.
Okay, we've got an area in the Tiruvannamalai district of Tamil Nadu in India facing off against a football club based in Macedonia. All right, two fascinating things, both with structures and shields and probably devoted fans. Both short articles. Let's not waste any time jumping right into them. Here's the kickoff.
Well, if you're familiar with this podcast, we value facts and pronunciations above almost anything else. We want to make
Mm.
sure we say it just right and don't mess up any of the details. And so here we go. Panar Hills is an area in the Taravannamalai district of Tamil Nadu in India. Kunda Kunda, the Digambar Jainarcharya, or the principal monk, spent much time here according to Jain beliefs. He visited Vidya Kasherta and ascended to heaven from here.
Ah, Kunda Kunda, the monk so nice they named him twice, ascended from heaven from this very spot, and it appears that they have a statue of him here. Looks like an onyx statue of a very naked individual, but it's a cool statue nonetheless. Little plaque at the bottom, pretty neat. Nice sunset behind him. There's a couple other statues, a long road, and another picture. Looks like a nice place. Would definitely like to check it out. And speaking of checking it out, considering that's all that we have of the article, let's check out our other contestant, FK Rabotnik Zumajilija.
This is a football club based in the village of Luzovo near Svet Nikolae, North Macedonia. They recently played in the Macedonian Third League.
This club was founded in 1961. It's 62 years ago, according to this Wikipedia article. So I've got to assume that they're still playing, but that's an assumption, and you know what that does. Looks like their chairman is Sande Jovanovski, and they play in the Macedonian Third League in, I'm assuming, the East Division.
Well, that's nice, but the question is, if they've been playing for 62 years, why are they still in the third?
Hmm. 62 years is a long time. That's a lot of overtime periods. I'm not sure how overtime works in Macedonian soccer. I only know from year to year how it works in American football. However, I would say that over time, Ponor Hills is going to be the one that's going to prove to be more significant and pretty much awesome. Looking at this spot, looks very cool. Again, not much information about either of them, but I don't see. We've got an emblem, like a shield here, an insignia, if you will, of the soccer team. Pretty basic. It's just light blue and white, basically shield form with a soccer ball in the middle because they're into being subtle. But this Ponor Hills, also not big fans of subtlety with this whole naked statue thing. However, I think that is way cooler than the symbol for the football team.
I think what we'll have to do is go to a tiebreaker with a new rule that I'm inventing right now. The loser will have to talk in a funny voice for the next round.
Rob, I thought you were doing that already.
What? No, a funnier voice. Listen, a funnier one.
Oh, okay. Why don't you show me how that works, Rob, as I continue this sentence and you kick the effect on so that it just shows what you can do and it's not doing it. All right, exceptional. And I'm looking forward not only to moving this Mr. or location, Ponor Hills, onto the next round, but I'm also looking forward to moving us on to this inevitably comical next round of.
The ultimate tournament of everything.
See, that's what happens when you give Rob new buttons. He wants to play with them all, even at his own expense, and I'm here for it. I love that. So, without any further ado, let's move on to all enjoy the misery of Rob's self-deprecation here in round 5.
Round 5.
Round 5.
He found another button.
I found another button. It's so much fun. In round 5, we're going to be talking about Louis Saint Agni Bellarive against the Ministry of Oil and Mineral Resources in Syria.
We have an individual who was influential in the founding and early years of St. Louis, Missouri versus a Ministry of Oil and Resources. It's led by the Minister of Oil. That sounds like an interesting position. Let's learn more about which one of these will be slippery enough to get into the next round.
You know, in fourth grade, you have to learn about your state. Well, I'm not from Missouri, so I didn't learn about St. Louis. So when you said that they were influential in the founding, I'm like, he's got to be making that up. That can't be real. No, it is. Born in 1698, Bellerive spent the first few years of his life in Montreal with his family, where most of us spend the first few years of our lives. However, he spent more of his childhood and teenage years growing up on the frontier, known as Missouri. His father, Robert Grust in St. Agnes, assisted a French Jesuit named Father Charlevoix while traveling up and down the Mississippi River. In addition, Bellerive's elder brother, Pierre, enlisted as a soldier in the Illinois country, which I think they still call it that today.
They do, though. It was the frontier times. It was still the country prior to being states. Though this ended badly for Pierre, for he was burned to death by the local Indians. He inspired Bellerive to join the force as well, because going up in flames is one way to go. Bellerive accompanied Etienne de Bourgmont as part of the French army on his expedition to establish Fort Orleans. This was in response to a potential threat from the Spanish continuing to grow and overpower the French in their location. And it was during this time that Bellerive met various Indians and formed many friendships that proved to be helpful later in his life.
Now, upon moving to St. Louis later in his life, he ran a provincial capital. Many people were moving to St. Louis for the religious freedom aspects of the new community, and Bellerive used his past experiences of diplomatic relations to help converse with members from different governments.
Yeah, it's nice that he didn't hold a grudge for, I mean, his brother got burned, but he was able to overlook that and make good friends and relationships that would help him many times over in his in his future. Luckily, from his past experiences, he was able to artfully wind his way through the intricacies of the diplomatic nature of the position.
Now, as with anyone from history, there are some things which in our modern times we'd view as the French say, problematic. Mainly that Bellerive never married, and that's not the problem. He instead had a lifetime mistress, Angelique, his Indian slave. So, I don't know if that quite counts as a relationship. Now, while working in St. Louis, he lived in Marie-Thérèse Bourgeois Chateau's house and oftentimes told stories from earlier in his life of adventures.
Yes, this was a complicated man with a lot of complicated experiences and relationships. Speaking of complicated relationships, let's talk about the Ministry of Oil and Mineral Resources in Syria.
Now, of course, this is a department of the Council of Ministers of the Syrian Arab Republic, led by the Minister of Oil. In 2020, the United States sanctions were placed on this ministry, mostly because in Syria it's, also as the French say, not great right now.
Yeah, especially if, oil and mineral resources is kind of a big thing over in that region of the world. This is a ministry identifying the functions and competencies of the Ministry of Petroleum and Mineral Resources under Legislative Decree number 121, the Fightin' 121 of 1970, and an act with a whole bunch of numbers that go on, so as to become its terms of reference, which are the following: supervision of the institutions and enterprises of the ministry, supervision of the prospecting, production, and investment efficiently managed if productivity was oil and mineral resources, the policy of all aspects of the activity on the oil, gas, and mineral resources. And it kind of goes on from there. These all seem very interesting and interestingly worded.
Supervision of the implementation of development projects, adoption of development plans, prepare studies and plans which process of development are required for modernization, coordinating many institutions, working to secure funding. They do lots and lots of things, mainly with their mineral resources, which might be the main sources of income for the nation of Syria. I guess I'm not sure about that. There are lots of people mentioned from 1970 when it was founded all the way to the present, where it is run by Bassem Tome. And that's about all we know.
Bunch of stuff going on here. A bunch of individuals have had their hands on it. Looks like that Bossum Tome has been in the position since 2020, and there were many who preceded him. The first of which was Mustafa Haddad from 1970 to 1972. These are pretty short stays in office here.
That's that's probably not a bad thing. Term limits are not a problem. But who's going to be the winner? I think I have to give this one to the man from St. Louis.
Yeah, definitely an interesting biography that you've got from this individual. Probably an interesting person to sit around a frontier forest or a frontier campfire with and listen to them tell you stories which may or may not have been true. But I bet they would have been fascinating nonetheless. Otherwise, if you're talking about the Ministry of Oil and Mineral Resources, you're just going to get a lot of gas, probably. You're going to get a lot of interesting things that take a lot of processing. We don't like to process anything too much here in the Ultimate Tournament of Everything, so let's keep it surface level and move Louis, Saint, and Bellarive on to the next round of
The ultimate tournament of everything.
Yay.
Yay! Yeah, definitely some interesting characters out there in the world, and our victor of that round was one of them. Let's move on to the next round and see if we find some more interesting facets of the infinite in round 6.
Making a turn around the last curve. He comes around the last second. There you have it. There is your winner. Round 6.
In round 6, we have Kerry Keel against Varsity College.
A small village versus a primary and secondary school in Queensland, Australia. Not a small village, but a college is kind of a community unto itself. So we've got two groups of people who are choosing to live, learn, love together. Let's see which one we're going to love and move on to the next round.
Kerry Keel, meaning the narrow quarter, is a small village in County Donegal in Ireland. It lies between Knockalla Mountain and Ranny Hill and is on the shores of Mulroy Bay. Kerry Keel is accessible via R245 and R247, which converge in the center of the village. It's also close to the tourist area of Port Salin, and Port Salin serves as the gateway to the Fanad Peninsula.
Ooh, the Fanad Peninsula. That's one of the finest peninsulas that is served as a gateway by Port Salon. Amenities here include St. Colmcille Primary School, a Garda station, Roman Catholic and Presbyterian churches, a post office, a grocery shop. They've got butchers and several takeaways. Those are restaurants. Oh, and also other restaurants from which you do not take the food away. You stay there and enjoy it.
No, you don't even get to do that. You have to bring them food. It's one of those weird, highfalutin concepts. You bring them the food, and they get to eat it.
I'm all for it. Now, I'm also for every Sunday morning in the Carrickeel Country Market. It takes place. During the summer period, Carrickeel sees an increase in tourists, with some staying at Rock Hill Holiday and Adventure Park, or in holiday rental homes in the area.
Now, we can assume that the village didn't look so great because there's a tidy towns committee set up with the vision of improving the overall look of the village. This has included the addition of seasonal flower beds, green areas along roads, and improvements to the pier.
Gotta make it good for the gram. Now, in 2013, Carrickeel was mistakenly named the crime capital of Ireland after a computer glitch at the Central Statistics Office. With a population of just over 400 people, Carrickeel was said to have an increase in sexual assaults, burglaries, and theft. Later, though, the CSO stated that Carrickeel was mixed up with Kevin Street. The error was later rectified. That if a whole town and a street are able to switch the most, the crime capital, that must be one heck of a street. Probably not that many takeaways other than don't go on that street.
Yeah, stay away from Kevin is the lesson there. So let's move right along to a college that sounds like it's made up, Varsity College, the primary and secondary school in Varsity Lakes in Queensland, Australia. Now, this opened in January of 2001 with Julie Grantham as principal and the initial cohort of 354 preschool to year 3 students. I think year 3 means like 3rd grade, but I'm not sure.
Since then, the school has grown to a 2-campus school with an enrollment of more than 3,500 students from prep to year 12. So, what we here think of normally as a college is exactly where this educational institution stops. So, what do they call colleges over there?
High schools?
That would make all the sense in the world. Now, this school has had multiple principals since its opening. Again, starting with Julie Grantham, then we had Tracy Cashman, Mike Kelly, Jeff Davis, Stephen McLucky, and Sharon Schultz to the present.
Now, they have cross-country, track, and field, and swimming carnivals. I don't know how you get to tilt-a-whirl underwater, but I'm here for it. Age champions are awarded for students who excel in these fields, and Varsity College has 4 sporting houses that are named after Gold Coast beaches. These houses are Rainbow, Burleigh, Kira, and everyone's favorite Gold Beach, Miami.
And this college, again, which is everything but an American college, has appeared in various pop culture elements such as Sea Patrol and most notably, everyone say it with me, the Sleepover Club. Never heard of it.
Never, ever heard of it. Now, that enrollment, that's a lot of kids in that 22 years. That's 1,000% growth. That's pretty impressive.
That is pretty impressive. Also impressive is their motto, Dare to Dream, which definitely would indicate to me that they do not have a moratorium of sleeping in math class, which I was proficient at in everything but college.
I
They don't let you do that there.
I could just imagine some salty 10th grader. Listen, I'm dreaming, okay? You dared me to do it.
So, which one of these 2 contestants will have their dream come true? Moving on to the next round.
I think I have to give it to Carrie Keel because they can also dare to dream to be a bigger town. Maybe they can jump enrollment by 1,000%, and maybe one day they can be just like Kevin Street.
Yes, I would so much rather go to a place in Ireland than go back to school. I've got to be honest with you here. And now that we know that it's so safe and increasingly beautiful, I can't do anything but agree with you and move Carrie Keel with great feeling on to the next round of
The ultimate tournament of everything.
Whoever thought that high school could be less exciting?
Dare to Sleep. And we're going to try to dare you not to sleep as we move you on to the next round, round 7.
Round 7. Round 7. Round 7. Round 7.
Uh-oh.
In round 7, we have everyone's favorite legislative district, Idaho's 11th, against There's No Love in Tennessee.
Okay, so very interesting contestants here. Idaho's 11th legislative district. Rob, say it with me. The
Fighting 11th.
That's right, absolutely. Versus There's No Love in Tennessee. Let's see. I think they said Virginia was for lovers, so that tracks. Let's see which one of these is going to move on to the next round.
Idaho's 11th district is one of 35 in the Idaho legislature and currently represented by Patty Ann Lodge, the Republican of Huston, and Scott Syme, the Republican of Wilder, and Tammy Nichols, you guessed it, the Republican of Nampa.
A lot of Republicans there, but that's probably because there's a lot of Republicans there. Now, there is a district profile from 1992 to 2002. District 11 consisted of a portion of Canyon County. We've got a chart here, a little graph. I don't really see that. It informs me of, there's Senate 1 Senate, 2 House seats from the district. But it changed from 2002 to 2012. It consisted of all of Gem and a portion of Canyon County. And then from 2012 to 2022, it currently consists of a portion only of Canyon County. So they keep redrawing those district lines as they are wont to do.
Every 10 years based on the results of the census as laid out in the Constitution.
Ah, yes, you can't gerrymander the Constitution, but you can gerrymander just about everything else. In December 2022, District 11 will consist of a portion of Canyon County, and that is the article as we have it before us. And speaking of before us, we have our other contestant. There's no love in Tennessee.
Written by Stephen Allen Davis and Dennis Morgan, and recorded by American country music artist Barbara Mandrell. It was released in February of 1985 as the first single in her greatest hits compilation album. The song reached number 7 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles and Tracks chart. So hang on. She put it out for the very first time on a greatest hits album. That's a little pretentious, I think, Barbara.
No, I think it's brilliant. That is a really good way to go about it. Start off just, on top. Know that it's going to be a banger and tell people straight off the way. I don't think she's the first one to release like a first album, a debut album, and call it greatest hits. Like that's genius as far as I'm concerned. And this Barbara Mandrell may have been no different.
Yeah, but it's a missed opportunity because she released this on February 18th as opposed to everyone's holiday where there's no love, Valentine's Day, 4 days earlier.
Yeah, but you never know what's going to happen on Valentine's Day. That Valentine's Day love is it's corporate love. It's like, oh yes, we've got to manufacture this whole experience that is Valentine's Day. But like 4 days later, when that candy buzz has worn off, and you realize, you know what? Not so great, really. Not so great. I know I'm in Tennessee. That's when this song really hits you.
Do you think we can bring back candy hearts, but like for all the days of the year? Like there's a candy heart that's like, you're pretty neat, or hey, it's a Wednesday, or not today, sleep. I don't know. Something fun.
That's a great idea. I think you should definitely look into that. Put a lot of your time and resources into it. But before you get to that, let's put our time and resources into figuring out which one of these two contestants will get the proverbial candy heart that says, I choose you here in this round.
Well, if I have to pick only one, and it sounds like you're making me, I think I'm going to have to go with There's No Love in Tennessee because I'm an optimist, and I think one day there could be.
There's No Love in Tennessee is the only 10 I see here in this round, and that's why it's moving on to the next one of
The ultimate tournament of everything.
Take that,
Beautiful.
Idaho.
Yeah, Idaho. I don't have anything to say about Idaho. It's oddly shaped. It's there. And speaking of there, we find ourselves here at the precipice of round 8.
I say, would you by chance have any round 8?
Round 8!
In round 8, we have Tommy Duncan, the footballer, against CAR.
Two things which will keep you in line. The Scottish retired football outside left player versus... This is an acronym for compass and ruler, also known as ZUL, depending on which language you're speaking here. And it's a free and open source interactive geometry app. Let's see which one of these is going to measure up here in this round.
Now, Thomas was remembered for his 11 years in the Scottish League with the Eridonians. Eridonians. There we go. He briefly played in the Football League on loan at Newport County and later managed Queen's Park between November of 1969 and May of 1974.
His senior professional football career commenced as a 16-year-old in the Scottish Highland Football League with his local senior football club, Bucky Thistle FC. His talents were spotted in the summer of 1952 when Airdrie FC played a two-game Highland preseason tour with one of the games played against Bucky Thistle at Victoria Park, Bucky, where Duncan shone on the Bucky Thistle left wing, and Airdrie subsequently and quickly signed him, and where he spent the next 11 seasons at Airdrie, and that was a long run-on sentence.
Only you can make something in Scotland sound like it's from Texas, Mike. Only you. But speaking of things that are probably also not in Texas, we're going to talk about Compass and Ruler, the free and open source interactive geometry app that can do geometrical constructions in Euclidean and, most importantly,
Non-Euclidean
geometry. There we go. The software is Java-based because everyone needs a little bit of coffee with their math.
That's true. Otherwise, you're going to fall asleep unless you are the author of this app, Renee Grothman of Catholic University of Eichstätt, Ingolstadt. It is licensed under the terms of the GNU General Public License.
Now, assignments make possible to create Java applets for a construction exercises. The person who wrote this, I don't think English was their first language, but don't worry, I don't speak too, so you got a leg up on me there. These applets can be used from the command line using the applet viewer. Previously, they could be run in a browser, but Java support in browsers has been disabled in recent years.
You know, the only thing I'm really thinking of right now is that apples are too big. I would like an applet, like a smaller, fully ripe apple. So I wouldn't have to eat. I'm never going to eat a whole apple. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like the idea of a smaller, still delicious, crisp and sweet apple. Why are apples too big?
Well, I think some apples are not. I think you got to get different apples. There's a new species of apple I saw in the grocery store. I cannot remember the name, but they're cute.
I would like a cute apple.
Yeah,
I could
yeah.
I could find an apple cute, but is it not just a cherry
No,
at that point?
no, I don't think you know how fruit works. It's not like they start out as cherries, then they get bigger and they're apples, and the big ones are watermelons. I don't think that's. Where's the fruit doctor? We had the meat doctor on the show. Where's the fruit doctor?
We'll have to wait for him to show up in a subsequent round. But here we are, fully grounded in this round, and we've got ourselves facing up the football player Tommy Duncan versus this app, which seems to have probably would have come in handy in homework stuff in the past had I gotten to an adequate level of mathematical education.
Nah, don't worry. You were daring to dream, and I'm going to be daring to put Tommy Duncan into the next round.
Tommy Duncan, you are slam dunking it here in this tournament of everything, and moving on to the next round of
The ultimate tournament of everything.
To sleep in math, perchance to dream, and eventually play with car.
The rest that you got in geometry. I mean, there's no substitute for that. What lulls you to sleep better? Not a lullaby, not white noise, but just the undeterminable ramblings of a math teacher. Just random things that you'll never understand. Speaking of random things that we'll never understand, let's get in to round 9.
It's about time for round 9.
Round 9.
Now, before we get into round 9, we, of course, are going to tell you about all the other things we do. We have a shorts podcast where we do the same thing, but one at a time. You can find those most days of the week. And on other days of the week, a full-length one just like this. You can find us wherever you get podcasts, and maybe even some places you don't, because someone has been putting stickers everywhere.
That's right. So don't forget to listen, tell your friends, rate, comment, and subscribe as we move you forward through your day and here forward into round 9.
Today we'll be talking about the murder of Michael Gilbert against the Walter B. Smith Medal of Honor.
Two things that are absolute killers. Let's see which one is going to, be victorious in this round. I don't think anything else need be said.
Nope, I don't think anyone's a winner here. The murder of Michael Gilbert occurred in 2009 in the United Kingdom. His decapitated body was found in a lake in Arlesey. He had for years been kept as a slave and subjected to abuse, by the Watt family, 6 of whom were jailed for their role in the murder. Gilbert, who had an unstable childhood, was considered a vulnerable and naive man who was easily exploited.
After his death, reports were published by Luton Safeguarding Vulnerable Adults Board, the LSVAB, and the Independent Police Complaints Commission, the IPCC, which identified failings by public services involved in Gilbert's case. This is definitely a rough way to go out on this episode tonight, but let's jump into her.
Yeah, okay, here we go. Trigger warning, if you have kids listening, put in some headphones. I guess it gets a little graphic from here on out. Gilbert was born in 1982 into an unstable home and spent parts of his childhood in care. He was the third of 5 children, and the family moved frequently. In 1993, his sister accused him of having sexually assaulted her, and the investigation was inconclusive in that instance. And in 1997, his mother told police that he had sexually assaulted a boy. He attended Hayward High School and was bullied at the school, underwent a mastectomy when he was 13, and met Watt in 1998 when they were both living in a children's home. He was also bullied at children's homes and was seen as easy to manipulate. By 2000, Gilbert had several criminal convictions and cautions and had spent time in prison and in a young offenders institution.
Yeah, this was a troubled child that had a difficult path in life, and it seemed to have affected him and would continue to do so. After leaving the children's home, Gilbert continued to associate with Watt, moving in and out of Watt's various Luton homes until his death. While living with the Watt family, he was frequently beaten and tortured, forced to work as a slave, a whole bunch of other terrible things, forced to sleep chained to his bed to stop him from escaping. When he did escape, the Watt family would use his national insurance number to find out where he was claiming his benefits so they could bring him back, although there were occasions where he returned of his own volition. So this is an instance where probably the system failed him as well. The Watt family was described by the LSVAB report as a caricature of the neighbors from hell and was, according to Julian Sturdy of BBC News, Luton's most notorious antisocial neighbors.
Now, the family, most of whom were unemployed, moved continuously, kept pit bull-type dogs and giant lizards, and were known for their violence and criminality. By 2001, the police had visited the family 112 times, so clearly that keeps working. That's the 113th time, guys. That'll stop them. Unfortunately, on May 10th of 2009, Gilbert's body was discovered, and he was found in the Blue Lagoon. The head and many other parts of his body were not found until almost a year later in February of 2010. Detectives believe he died overnight between the 21st and 22nd of January, and a murder investigation was started and several arrests were made. The pathologist who examined the body found that his heart had been cut and there were stab wounds in his chest and internal injuries to the stomach and intestine, but unsure of the precise cause of death. Not that I think it matters.
So let's jump into the aftermath. The trial into the murder began in February of 2010. In April, James Watt, his girlfriend Natasha Oldfield, and Nicola Roberts, the girlfriend of James's brother Richard, were found guilty of Gilbert's murder. Richard Watt, Robert Watt, James' brother, and the mother of the brothers, Jennifer Smith Dennis, were found guilty of familial homicide. All 6 were found guilty of perverting the course of justice. Antonio Watt, the father of the brothers, was acquitted of familial homicide and perverting the course of justice. James Watt received a sentence of 36 years, Oldfield 18, Roberts 15, Richard 6, Robert 8, and Smith Dennis 10 years. The judge, John Bevan, considered giving James Watt a whole life sentence, but did not because he thought he would have regarded it as a badge of honor. And so Bevan describes the case as a grotesque story and said Michael Gilbert had died a cruel, lonely, and violent death.
That, I think, is the dumbest reason to not give somebody a life sentence. I will let you out in 30 years. You'll like it too much if you're in there forever. I think he deserves to be in there forever. I think that's probably the best option here. Now, obviously, lots of things went wrong in this, and the LSVAB published a serious case review and found that the response by police, social workers, and medical professionals was inadequate, which I think is the understatement of the night. It made 8 recommendations for improvement, And the report said that Gilbert's childhood led to his being literally and emotionally abandoned without consistent or predictable guidance.
So let's jump from a whole bunch of people who did a whole bunch of terrible things to someone who did something pretty decent, at least at some point, deserving a Medal of Honor, our other contestant, Walter B. Smith.
Walter B. Smith was born 1827, and his death date is unknown, so maybe he's still out there. He was a Union Navy sailor in the American Civil War and a recipient of the U.S. military's highest decoration, the Medal of Honor, for his actions in the Battle of Mobile Bay.
And that is the toughest bay to find because it's always on the move. Born in 1827 in New York, Smith joined the Navy from that state. He served in the Civil War as an ordinary seaman on the USS Richmond.
During the Battle of Mobile Bay on August 5th of 1864, he manned an artillery gun on the topgallant forecastle, a deck on the top of the ship's forecastle. When Richmond became engaged with the CSS Tennessee, Smith fired his musket into the Confederate ship's gun ports. For these actions, he was awarded the Medal of Honor 4 months later in December of that same year. His official Medal of Honor citation reads, "On board the USS Richmond, during action against rebel forts and gunboats, and with the ram Tennessee on Mobile Bay, August 5th, 1864. Cool and courageous at his station throughout the prolonged action, Smith rendered outstanding service at the 100-pounder rifle on the topgallant forecastle and while firing his musket into the gun ports of the rebel Tennessee."
Yes, this individual was quick on the draw and had a good aim, probably. He probably took out a lot of people too. War is never good. Killing people is never good. The winners write history, but they also gave him a Medal of Honor and are saying that he was a really good guy. So we'll have to take that for what it's worth. So here at the end of both of these articles, we find ourselves with a choice. Do we move on the murder of Michael Gilbert and all of the things associated with it, or do we bring on this story of Walter B. Smith? Is one really? I'm not saying that any of these. This is tough. A morality is a slippery slope.
Yes, it is. But remember, the Civil War, remember what that was about. So he was fighting for the good side. And yes, I'm calling it the good side. And if you live in Tennessee and you think there wasn't a good side and a bad side, you can send hate mail. That's fine. I won't read it.
All right. So, Michael B. Smith, we don't think you were any ordinary seaman. We think that you were an extraordinary seaman. Moving on to the next round of
The ultimate tournament of everything.
Well, we hope you'd enjoyed this episode and have learned many, many things about the world around you. And if you have, don't worry, there will be more of this if only you subscribe to it in your podcast feed. And if you want more people to enjoy the things that you enjoy, tell them about it, even if that is this thing.
That's right. And this thing is that thing, and this thing is about all things, which is everything here on the ultimate tournament of everything. Please join us next time for the next episode. We'll see you then.
The ultimate tournament of everything.